In today's video, I'm going to slice this piece of Biggs Jasper using my Highland Park Lapidary 18-inch slab saw. So my first challenge is deciding how do I want to cut this piece. There's a nice pattern along this face here, so I could slice it like that. I also like this pattern here quite a bit, which means I could slice it like that. I don't know. What do you think? So I'm going to get this set up on my slab saw and go over some of the features of that slab saw and make some cuts. And then perhaps I'll do another video showing how to turn those Biggs Jasper slabs into cabochons. Here's the 18-inch Highland Park Lapidary slab saw. This I bought, I don't know, about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, during the height of the pandemic. I had an older model of this from the 1960s, which was great, made great cuts, but I decided it was time to try the new version. They made a lot of improvements, lots of enhancements, just little things, little details like these little tabs right here that they welded in allow the oil that collects up here to drip down away from the ground and back into the saw, which is nice. I decided to put this Everclean system on it, and since then I have not had to change the oil. Now, I've said before, it's not a perfect system, but I want you to see, you can clearly see the oil is clean, other than at the very bottom, which collects, but the oil itself is perfectly clean, and I have cut hundreds of rocks. So right there is the little port that sucks the oil out, and you can see that it's not at the very, very bottom of the tank. That's why there is that layer at the very bottom of the tank which collects, but it doesn't get any bigger. It has a great carriage system. This vise and this carriage, it's mounted on rails. There's the feed dog. It uses these bearings, so it's very smooth, held very tight. For the blade, I decided to go with the MK301. It's a centered blade. It has had no issues. It cuts like a champ. This saw also has a new switch box here, so there's an emergency stop button on the right. There's this little switch for the lid. If I lift the lid up while it's running, it'll shut the thing off, which is good. There, of course, is the auto stop switch, which connects to this chain right here, which I hook on to that little hook right there when I decide how much cutting I want to do, how deep I want to make my cut. So the vise works out really well. It's all cast iron. I'll go over this in a minute with the actual stone, but you can see how it locks in. You can tighten it up. And then with this lever here, this is how I adjust my position. I'll go over all that here in just a second with the actual piece of Biggs Jasper stuck in here. So that's the saw. Oh, by the way, in case you didn't know, this threaded rod right here, which drives the feed mechanism, feeding the stone in, is just controlled by some gears that attach to the main drive. So there's one motor in this thing, big old motor there that drives both the saw blade itself and through this gearing, that threaded rod which feeds the stone through the blade. So let me get this set up for you here, and we'll do some cutting. And before I get started, I do want to check on my Everclean. It's been a while since I've checked it. So I take out this little screw here, and I remove the top. And I look in here. So I can see the sludge on the edge. And it's not quite filled up yet. When the sludge becomes flush with this inner lip right here, that's when I have to change out the canister. So I have a ways to go still, because there's more room for the sludge to fill up. The way this works, it's a centrifugal filter. I can actually turn it on for you. Let's do that. Let me turn this over because oil is going to shoot out of that. You can see how this thing works. So there's the oil, which would be flowing down into this. And as the centrifugal force spins it up and out, the heavier grit, in this case, or mud, gets stuck on the inner wall. And the clean oil then comes out the very top, drops down, and ultimately comes out that opening right there. So that's how the Everclean system works. It's a centrifugal force. There's the pump that sucks the dirty oil out of the bottom of the tank. They get through that, down into this, which is spinning very fast. All that heavy muck gets stuck on the sides, and the cleaner oil then comes out the very top, drops down, and goes back out here into the tank. I gotta shut this down now so I can put it back on. I could put it back on with it running like that, but I'd make a mess. I don't want to do that. All right, let's get started. I decided I was going to take a chance and cut it like this, not knowing what pattern may lie behind this. I know I like what I see on this side, so I'm going to take a chance and cut here. I'll take a couple of cuts and see how it looks. I can always readjust if it looks like it's not very interesting. So now I need to get it mounted in the vise. So the first thing I need to do is lock the vise, so now the vise doesn't move, and get this mounted in the vise. Something like that, let's say. I always want to start with this thread all the way back. I start to tighten it like this. I then want to add some shim on this side. That way this vise doesn't get torqued too much one way or the other. And now I just tighten it down. And there, look at that. That's never happened before. Of course, I've never cut big Jasper before, but that piece just broke. Look at that. So clearly that had a fracture in it. Interesting, huh? Wow. Glad you got to see that. That's literally never happened to me before. Yeah. It must have had a big fracture in it. I was just tightening the vise and boom. So now I'm thinking for this piece, I may end up just maybe cutting it in half and tumbling it, because now this is getting pretty small. I don't know. Gotta think about this now. I could still put some slices in it, and you can see the size, so I could still make some cabochons. I'll do that. I'll take this side here. So I'll take this piece here. I'll get it in the vise. Hopefully it won't break again. And I will cut some slabs through there. Let's try that. That's crazy. That's literally never happened to me before. But I said, this is my first time ever trying to slab Biggs Jasper. this here. Let's see if this holds up when I tighten it. Yeah, I mean that's in there good. That's not moving. First thing I want to do now is check the distance. So right about there, goes through the entire rock. So I'm going to put my little stopper on here. And now I'm going to take my handle here and rotate it until I get to the first cut depth, which will go right about, let's say, I'll do there. That's about here. Yeah, and this top piece will just be a tumbler. So then I get the rock very close to the blade, pull it back slightly, lift up, so now it's locked in. And I'm about to shut the lid and get it started. Well, before I do that, I want to go ahead and get this Everclean running. Now you can see the flow there. So that's the Everclean running. All right. Shut the lid and get it going. Starting to hear the blade hitting. Just let that run until it stops. The saw has stopped on its own. See how that first cut looks. I guess it's sort of interesting looking. Now we adjust. I like to go about 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That gives a nice wide slab, which I prefer to work with when I'm making cabochons. The next cut is done. And 8. I want to break into the course of Laverne and Shirley when I start counting like that. Anyone of my age will get that reference. Let's get this next slice going. Okay, that cut is finished. All right, I may do another cut or two, but I won't bore you with that. I'll just show you how these all look here in just a few seconds. So after a couple of trials and tribulations, I was able to get a few slabs off of this piece of Biggs Jasper. Let's take a closer look. Oh, they're pretty interesting, I suppose. Nice pattern in there. I think these may make a beautiful cabochon. A couple of these pieces are just going to be thrown in one of the tumblers. See how they shine. This one I may cut again, or I may throw it in the tumbler, I don't know yet. And then of course this is the piece that, the second half of this thing that I haven't touched yet. Perhaps soon I will make another video showing how I turn these little slabs into cabochons. I can take a template and try to figure out a nice way to lay it out. Find a good shape. Something like that maybe, or perhaps something like that, we'll see. Well, thank you for watching this video on slabbing a piece of Biggs Jasper on my Highland Park Lapidary 18-inch slab saw. Hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure and check out some of my other videos. Got lots of videos like this. Thanks again.